Makandiwa approached this woman, visited her at night. I don't know what they spoke about, but one thing I know, that most of you know, if you were members of Emmanuel Makandiwa's church around 2010, 11, and 12, this very same woman was brought to Emmanuel Makandiwa's church, and she was introduced as a mighty woman of God, as a prophetess of God. Remember, this woman was a ritualistic woman. All her rituals involved slaughtering of chickens. It involved bringing goats and slaughtering goats. It involved all these traditional ways of conducting business. But when Emmanuel Makandiwa went to meet this woman at night, the following Sunday, she was introduced in Emmanuel Makandiwa's church in the City Sports Stadium. I'm saying this so that so many of you can connect. And Emmanuel Makandiwa called this woman a mighty woman of God, a powerful woman of God. What else happened is the question. Emmanuel Makandiwa told his members to contribute money so that they can buy a house for this woman, for my praise. And a house was bought for my praise. After this introduction in Makandiwa's church, my praise was never heard of. The shrine in Mbare was never heard of. All the healings and miracles that my praise was doing in Mbare were never heard of. That was the end of my praise. The question to ask now is, where is my praise? What happened to my praise? What happened to the house that members contributed to buy a house for my praise? What happened to that house? My praise is still very much alive. I'm not saying this to create panic so that most of you can think my praise disappeared. No, she's still very much alive. The question is, what role is she playing in Emmanuel Makandiwa's life? Remember, she was introduced as a mighty woman. Remember, she was very influential in Mbare. She was doing healing miracles. She was helping people there in Mbare at her shrine. Could my praise be Emmanuel Makandiwa's God? Definitely, Emmanuel Makandiwa's God that he was referring to, he can never be Kusi Boateng, because Kusi Boateng is powerless. He has nothing. He has no single power in his body. He knows nothing about power. He can't do nothing. He's just an empty vessel, Kusi Boateng. He's a fraudster, actually. There's a very big cathedral scandal in Ghana right now that is implicating Kusi Boateng. He has multiple identities. There's a scheme that he was running that he siphoned billions of dollars. We'll look into that later. But now we're just trying to understand Emmanuel Makandiwa's statement when he said he has more gifts than God. Could the God of Emmanuel Makandiwa be my praise? Because definitely she must be the source of Emmanuel Makandiwa's gimmicks and most of the rituals that he was making his members perform. It was after Emmanuel Makandiwa adopted my praise. When he adopted my praise, that's when there was a baby. A few months down the line. Most of you might not remember this, but let me sharpen your memory. There was a baby that went missing. It was at a crossover night of Emmanuel Makandiwa, or it was just a normal program that was being held at Emmanuel Makandiwa's church. There was a baby that went missing during service. It was a 7-year-old baby, 7-year-old boy. And this baby went missing for 3 days. They looked for that baby everywhere. They couldn't find that baby. This baby was only found after 3 days outside the premises of City Sports. After 3 days, when the body was already decomposing. And this story was never carried by any media house in Zimbabwe. No one was ever accused of anything. But this baby was found dead already. Was the baby sacrificed? And it's not only the baby that has died in Emmanuel Makandiwa's shrine. We've spoken about pastors that just go just like that. We've spoken about several things. Mysterious deaths in Emmanuel Makandiwa's high rate of divorce. All these things, mysterious things taking place. And we've also raised an issue of why does Makandiwa not turn up for funerals or burials of his close members, of his pastors. No matter how close you are to Makandiwa, if you die today, he'll never come to your funeral. He will never. Look at Keta. Look at Tembo. Pastor Keta. Look at all the influential pastors that were ever. In the recent one, I forgot his name, who died before Christmas. Was it after Christmas? Somewhere around that time. He has never shown up for any of those. The question that we're trying to understand here is, what role is my praise playing in Emmanuel Makandiwa's life? I told you we connect dots by looking backwards. Because most of you just follow these people without having a revelation of where they are coming from. If you don't know how they started, then you just catch this whole wave at a stage whereby it's going to corrupt you. You find yourself in covenants. You find yourself affiliated to certain rituals that you never intended to be part of. You think you're doing things of God, but you're in the midst of an occultic shrine, of an occultic ministry. So still, the question remains, when Makandiwa said he has more gifts than God, he's gifted more than God, he's better than God. Which God? The one with a small letter G? It can never be our God or my God. Makandiwa is a useless boy compared to my God. He's nothing. He is not absolutely nothing. He's a nobody. Don't be fooled by all this money that they have accumulated by stealing from people. That is nothing. All that is vanity. But for him to boast and try to confuse people, to make people think that he's referring to our God, that was the biggest blunder of his miserable life. He is nothing, Makandiwa. He's a nobody. He's a nothing, non-entity. For him to be compared with my God, never. We can never allow that confusion to roam in the Christendom. Never. He was not talking about my God. He was referring to my praise. My praise is Emmanuel Makandiwa's God. She is the one that directs Emmanuel Makandiwa's steps. Like I said during the course of the video, if you know my praise, please let me know. I don't want you to tell me anything. I just want you to confirm that you know her. That's all. And then I'll bring you the full flesh of this carcass, the full story behind Emmanuel Shingirai Chirume, the guy that you never knew. You don't know that guy. At some point, I told you he was a native doctor. He was at Sikamtanda with his uncle who is going through the most in Chikurubi right now, in prison. He's in prison right now, and I'll tell you the reason why he's in prison. There's more, my people. Before you follow these wolves, do an investigation. Find out where they are coming from, where they got their powers, if they have the powers. So when they start coming now confessing that they have more powers than their gods, you understand what they mean. So dislodge all that narrative of thinking that Makandiwa is better, he is more gifted than God. No, he was not referring to our God. He was referring to my praise. The story of my praise begins and it continues until you get to the bottom of this. This was the biggest blunder of his life. Him coming, claiming and trying to cause confusion to people, saying that he's better gifted than God. Well, till I meet you again on the next episode of the Latin series, it's Mr. PDT. In I'm out.